Hello guys, today we're going to be starting IB Economics on my channel. So I was an IB Economics student. I scored 7s on my paper 1s and paper 2s. In total I got a 6. So let us begin. So I'm going to be sharing all my notes I used for my official exams and explaining every single section. So welcome. So basically, let's begin. So for section 1.1, you do have to know your concepts, your economic concepts, and whatnot. But again, I'm just teaching you the notes you have to know for your exams and stuff you're going to be asked in the exams, right? So let's begin. So first, I'm going to be explaining the production possibilities curve, which is called the PPC curve, right? So in the PPC, you have this graph. So basically, what the PPC talks about, like what it really shows you is scarcity, okay? So the concept of scarcity, which is why the PPC is negative sloped, right? So you have two goods. You have good Y and then you have good X. Okay, so basically what this means is that when you're, for example, when you're producing 100 units of good X, you can produce 300 units of good Y, okay? But when you're producing 200 units of good X, then you have to produce 200 units of good Y. This means that you have an opportunity cost of 100 here. Your opportunity cost is 100. Okay, so this is opportunity cost. So basically, the PPC is the phenomenon of increasing opportunity cost. What does opportunity cost mean? Opportunity cost is actually a keyword in the IB business management syllabus, meaning that for every um for every 100 units of producing good X, so the more you increase the production of good X by 100 units, you decrease the production of good Y by 100 units in this case, right? Another example, a really simple example of good X, of opportunity cost, is, for example, like you chose to study economics in IB. So your opportunity cost is the psychology. So instead of studying psychology, study economics. So that is an opportunity cost, right? So when you choose something and you end up sacrificing something else for that thing, okay, this is called opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost of studying economics is that you had to let go of the psychology course. And now we have another example. For example, if you're producing 300 units of good X, right? So if you're producing 300 units of good X, then you're going to have to produce 50 units of good Y. So here the opportunity cost is 150. Okay, because you are now instead of producing 100, you produce 300, you are sacrificing um the amount of good Y. Okay, so if you're producing 100 of good X and 300 of good Y, okay, then you end up producing 300 of good 300 of good X, and you have to end up producing 50 of good Y. So the opportunity cost, if you do all this shift, so this shift, okay, so this whole shift is going to be 250 good Y units of good Y. Okay, so yeah, so 250 units of good Y. So this is it. So this is why PPC is the phenomenon of increasing opportunity cost. So basically, an economy producing more and more of one good is forced to sacrifice. So again, the key word is already underlined, sacrifice. To sacrifice increasing amounts of the other good. The reason is that resources tend to be specialized, okay? As this is not the keyword, though, so I'm not going to underline, but like specialized, as the economy concentrates more and more on the production of one good. It starts by using resources which are less suitable for its production. Those resources may be more useful for the production of the other good. Okay, so for example, like we said, you have good X, good Y. So certain goods may be useful to produce good X, right? But they're not as useful as for producing good Y. But because you want to increase the production of good X, you end up using these resources anyway. So this is just a simple explanation. Now we're going to be explaining more about the PPC curve. Okay, so you have two things. You have two types of growth. You have actual growth and you have potential growth. So let's explain these. So we're going to start with actual growth. So what is actual growth? So actual growth happens when unemployment decreases, okay? So when there's a decrease in unemployment, okay? So the employment rate increases. more efficient use of resources. So here you have efficiency. Efficiency is very important, okay? Efficiency is a key term in IB economics. You always have to use it. However, the amount of resources does not change. Okay, so let's say you had, like, let's say 50,000 resources. Okay, I'm just like using a really, really general example. Before you used to like produce, let's say 5,000 televisions, 5,000 TVs. But after you have actual growth, so after actual growth, you actually begin producing 7,500 TVs, right? So this is actually actual growth because here you're using the resource in an efficient way, meaning that there is less waste, okay? Because efficiency basically indicates that there is less waste. Okay, so this is how the PPC will change, right? So now we're going to be explaining how the PPC will change. What happens is that this is the PPC curve, right? This is it, it's in blue, okay? So this is the PPC curve, okay? I just like outlined it for you. But basically what will end up happening is that you really can't be on the PPC curve just because the PPC curve is too perfect. It's like ideal. So what ends up happening is that you like the points shift way close to the PPC, okay, because you're growing, right? So this is actual growth, so you're growing. So what happens is that you're able to produce more units, okay? So from y1 will increase to y2 and x1 will increase to x2 just because you're able to produce more because you have less waste, okay? So you're using your resources in a better way, right? So movement from point A to point B depict, so here point A to point B depict economic growth and movement so basically this is like they depict economic growth and movement illustrates an increase and increase in the economy's output. So the output that the economy is having, the output that the economy is producing, right? So this is for actual growth. But for potential growth, it's just a bit different. So for potential growth, it's increase in the amount of resources. So see, this is the difference, is the increase in the amount of resources. Okay. So this economy is now in a position to produce and enjoy combinations that were previously unattained because again, there is an increase in the amount of resources, right? So here you see that good X and good Y. What happens is that basically the PPC shifts. So there is a shift in the PPC. Okay, so the curve itself, it ends up shifting because there's more resources at this point, right? So this is what ends up happening because you have more resources. Okay, so such a shift is possible only if quality or quantity increases or improves, okay? Or if there is an advancement in technology, very important. Advancement in technology means that the technology is more efficient. For example, let's say you have a machine that like produces they produce cupcakes, okay? So basically they just like make the cupcakes, like they mix the matter and stuff. So like at some point, let's say in the year 2000, this machinery could like produce, let's say 1,000 cupcakes per day. Now, let's say in 2024, okay, it can produce 3,000 per day. This is a very hypothetical example, but this is how this shift can happen because you have advanced technology, okay? So this is how the PPC can actually shift outwards. So it ends up shifting outwards. So you have a shift in the curve itself. So here, the difference is that amount of resources does not change. This is the key importance, the key difference. So basically, potential growth versus actual growth. Resources amount is basically the key difference between them. Okay, so this is what you have to know. Okay, so basically it's the amount of resources. Okay, here it changes. Here it does not change. So this is the key difference. Okay. Now you have the circular flow of income that we have to explain. So basically for the circular flow of income, you have your households and you have your firms. Okay, so you have to know how to draw this in IB, right? Especially if you have like a paper. Actually, it's just specifically for paper one because you have to demonstrate your work. So you have households, what they offer to firms. So they offer factors of production, they offer labor, okay, because they're employees. They offer land, they offer capital, and they offer entrepreneurship. Okay, so all of these things. Then you have firms, what they offer to households. Firms, they offer goods, they sell them goods, and they sell them services. Okay, so I'm just gonna give you examples of goods and services just because we're still in the first like part of IB economics. Services can be cleaning services, for example. Okay. Um, and then for goods, you have so many types of goods. We can say food, we can say clothing. So there's so many different types of goods, right? So another thing, services. Oh, I don't know why this is on the erase mode, but basically, services are intangible, meaning that you cannot touch. Okay. And then the goods are tangible, you can touch them. Okay. That's like difference between goods and services, right? So it's now you also have what firms are also offering to households, which is basically income. They're offering them rent, they're offering them wages. Okay, so income, what does that mean? That means salaries. Wages is also like sort of salaries. They offer them profit, so basically factor of payments. And then you have households, what they offer firms, they offer spending on goods and services. So they purchase them. So basically like they spend them. So by spending, they purchase them. And again, income and spending must be equal. And that's really it. So now you have a slightly bigger concept, which is basically the bigger circular flow of income, which is what I like use. So this is like a better one. So this is what you should like basically, draw. So like we basically mentioned that households give firms consumer expenditure, like they basically spend. Okay, so this is like spending, right? And then they spend on goods and services. And then firms, they give them factor incomes, okay? So they give them factor incomes. They give them wages and like salaries, okay? So these are like salaries, rent, interest, profit. And then you have what houses, like basically you have leakages and injections. So basically what leakages are is basically leakages are income not spent on goods and services. Okay, injections are basically expenditures on goods and services. So they don't originate from households. Okay, so for example, households, they save money, right? So they don't end up spending this money. So this is not part of spending on goods and services. This is not part of it, right? So basically, this savings, it ends up going to financial markets. Why? Because they put it in a bank, right? So for example, you have bank. This is an example. You put them in the bank. And then this ends up being invested by the bank, okay? When it is invested by the bank, because again, the bank, they end up getting interests, they end up like making money out of that investment, and then that goes to the businesses, right? So this leaks out of the circular flow of income, but then this injects it back. Taxes. So taxes, who do they go to? They go to the government because taxes are money that are not spent on goods and services. So they go to the government, okay? The government ends up spending them, whether it's on healthcare, it can be on education, it can be on so many different things. This goes back to the firms. But then you have imports, okay? So imports are basically things or like goods you get from outside the country into your country, and that goes to other country, and like the money goes to other countries instead of being spent on goods and services. So all these three, they are not spent on goods and services, but the money ends up coming back from exports, and that's why exports are like things that you send out of your country, and then like you get money from outside the country. So that's why it's expenditure that does not originate from the households. Okay, it doesn't come from the money of the households. Okay, so it comes from other places. So basically, leakages must be equal to the injections. If they are equal, then the national income will stay the same. So that's if they are equal. But if leakages are greater than the injections, the national income will decrease, right? So national income is like basically the average national income. And if leakages are less than injections, then the if the injections are greater than the leakages, then the national income will increase, okay? So this is a good thing for the country. This is a good scenario, meaning that the country is basically like they're spending more than they're like spending less than they're making. Wait, no, sorry. They're spending less than they're making, yeah, basically. Or they're making more than they're spending, yeah. And if they end up having leakages or greater than their injections and the national income decreases, this is the bad scenario. And then this is just a neutral scenario. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this was helpful. If you liked it, please subscribe so I can continue making these videos. And please comment and like. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.